Unit 10, Family Life Cycle. 10.1 Introduction. In the previous block, you read a lot about the institution of family, its different forms and structures, family dynamics and theories related to families. Regardless of the fact that the family is considered the basic institutional element of society, the experiences, issues, and feelings it encompasses are personal and private concerns for most people. A large majority of people grow up in families and gain first-hand familial experiences. It is true that family patterns, structures, and functions have changed dramatically, but their persistence, adaptability, and importance to individuals are most remarkable and noteworthy even today. In this particular unit, you will study the meaning, importance, and significance of the family life cycle. You will be briefly oriented to the different stages of the family life cycle and some common characteristics of each stage of the family life cycle. You will acquire an elaborate understanding of each stage of the family life cycle in the following units of this block, as well as the next block. At the end of this unit, you will recognize the importance of acknowledging and respecting the individual differences of family members for families to be able to positively face the issues and conflicts of each stage. Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to understand the meaning of the family life cycle, develop familiarity with all the stages of the family life cycle, recognize the importance of studying the family life cycle, know the salient features across the family life cycle, and understand the importance of respecting individual differences in familial relationships. 10.2. What is family life cycle? Knock on any family door, and what will you find within? Can you ever know exactly what that particular family is like? You know that every family is different in one way or another. According to Duval, generally, if you know 3 things about a family, you can predict with somewhat reliability what is going on within that family. Where a family is in time in its life cycle, within an era of social change, and in a given season, day and hour. Who lives in the family? How the family rates in the community as seen in its social status. If you know these 3 things, you can tell even before you meet the family what the important elements to look for are and what forces you may find in action. Families have a developmental history that is marked by periods of dynamic action and relative calm. These periods of action and calmness are experienced by all families across the world within a day, week, and season. Each family grows through the years in its own particular way. Just as the individual is born, grows, develops, matures, ages, and undergoes successive changes and development from conception to death in her or his own way, each family lives out its life cycle in its own unique fashion. So, what then is the meaning of the term family life cycle? The family life cycle is the fundamental concept in understanding how families change over time. The family life cycle can be divided into stages that are conceptually distinct and that typically occur in a given sequence. Aldous, 1978, in Duval and Miller, 1985. There is a predictability about family development that helps you know what to expect of any family at any given stage, regardless of who its members are or where it is located. The family life cycle, as a frame of reference, is a way of taking a long look at family life. It is based upon the recognition of the successive patterns within the continuity of the family living over the years. It opens the way for the study of the particular problems and potentials, rewards and hazards, vulnerabilities and strengths of each phase of family experience, from beginning to end. Duval, 1985. In each stage, one faces challenges in one's family life that cause one to develop or gain new skills. Developing these skills helps the individual work through the changes that nearly all families go through. 10.3 Family Life Cycle Stages. The family life cycle may be divided into a few or many stages on the basis of several factors. We can broadly divide the family cycle into 2 stages. 1. The expanding family. This stage includes the inception of the family to the time its children are born. 2. The contracting family. During this stage, children are being launched by the family into lives of their own, and the family contracts through the later years with one or both of the original pair still at home. For the purpose of definite and specific study of the family or its members, the above 2 stages are very broad in nature. Duval has recognized 8 stages of the family life cycle. These are 1. The beginning families, that is, the married or cohabiting couple without children. Fig. 10.1. The beginning family. 2. Childbearing families. 3. Families with preschool children. 4. Families with school-going children. Families with teenagers. 6. Families as launching centres. 7. Families in the middle years. And 8. Aging families. A typical Indian family begins with marriage. Marriage forms an early establishment of family for the newly married couple who might stay alone or with other family members. Do you recall reading about the family structure in the unit on diversity in family forms? The family in the beginning stage develops fast with the coming of the first child, and the married couple now plays the role of father and mother. The family continues to expand as successive children are born, and parents continue to play additional roles. Each addition to the family brings along with it a need for reorganization of various aspects of family living. New sets of roles and responsibilities, new domains of adjustments, and newer issues and challenges to be dealt with. As children grow older, so do their parents. Change is a constant factor in the life cycle of every family. Everything changes, such as the needs, desires, hopes, and expectations, as well as responses to the demands and pressures of growing children. As time passes, the relationship of children with their parents, siblings, and other relatives also changes. Families mature and grow along with children. The families that once expanded to accommodate the needs and requirements of growing children later contract to launch the children as young adults. The active and bustling long years of the family, which ran at a hectic pace, now slow down and give way to slow-moving long years when middle-aged and aging parents face the latter half of their marriage together as a pair, or with married children who may also have become parents. The later years of life come with new opportunities and problems. In the following units in this block and the next block, you will study in detail the different stages of the family life cycle. But before you study each life cycle stage of the family in depth, it is essential to know why we need to understand the family life cycle. TAT 10.4 Importance of understanding the family life cycle. Every family does not pass through the stages of the family life cycle smoothly. Situations such as severe illness, financial problems and crises, the death of a loved one, and failure can have an effect on how well a family passes through the stages. Further, research studies indicate that husbands and wives are influenced in very different ways by the stage of family life cycle experiences. It is also important to note that all families do not move through the family life cycle in the same way. Each family grows through the years in its unique and particular way. Rich or poor, large or small, living in the city or village, class, caste, nuclear or joint, all families have different experiences. The stages discussed earlier are what the majority of families experience, but the life experiences of some individuals do not follow the family life cycle mentioned earlier. There are people who may never marry. They may continue to live with their family of orientation, or may live alone. There may be couples who cohabitate but do not form families of procreation. Some couples voluntarily or involuntarily never bear or rear children, and some may choose to adopt. Some families may be grieving the loss or death of a child. Some people may marry earlier or later, bear children earlier or later, or over a longer period of time. A family might have a children with special needs, which may alter the family's needs and characteristics to a great extent. Read the vignettes given below. Pranav and Nandini were formally engaged, but had no plans to get married for the next 5 years. Their priority was their career. They were extremely intimate with each other. Pranav had to go abroad for an important project for a period of 1 year. 2 months later, Nandini discovered that she was pregnant. It was not possible for Pranav to come back to India in a short time. She delivered the baby. When they got married after a year, they were already parents. For this couple, the beginning family started with the presence of a child. Ashok's wife died in an accident, leaving behind their 2 school-going children. It was difficult for Ashok to manage his business and rear children single-handedly. He was compelled to marry again. He got married to Priti, who was divorced with a young child. For Ashok and Priti, The beginning family involved many complexities of relationships, roles, and adjustments. One must also take into account the different forms of families, such as those formed through divorce and remarriage, single-parent families, step families, migrant families, and dual-earner families. Alternative lifestyles like same-sex marriages, homosexual pairs, group marriages, communes, and other family-like households also need to be considered. Domestic violence and mental disorders of a family member have a complex set of issues associated with them. You have read earlier that the challenges you face at each stage help you to develop and gain new skills. Mastering the skills and milestones of each stage is important to successfully move to the next stage. Successful transitioning may help prevent disease and emotional or stress-related disorders. Not being able to master the skills does not mean that the family will be stagnant at one stage. The family will still move on to the next phase, but its members are more likely to have difficulty with relationships and future transitions. The missed skills can be learned and improved at any stage to enhance the quality of family life. Whether you are a parent or child, husband or wife, live-in partner, brother or sister, or bonded by love, blood, or contract, your experiences through the family life cycle will affect who you are and who you become. The more you understand the challenges of each stage, the more likely you are to successfully move on. Further, understanding the family life cycle is useful for counselors, family therapists, doctors, nurses, home economists, teachers, social workers, and other professionals and paraprofessionals who work with families, as well as for parents and family members for whom life cycle management is relevant. Knowing where a family is in its life cycle makes it possible to anticipate a number of vital factors. Being cyclical by definition, the family life cycle and each of the stages within it have no beginning and no end. No matter where you start to study the family life cycle, there are always relevant roots in the near and distant past that must be considered. 10.5 Salient features of each stage in a family life cycle. You must have understood by now that all stages of the family life cycle are very different from each other, and yet closely connected. We will now discuss some features that are common to each stage. All stages of the family life cycle have the following features in order to successfully transition to the next stage. Roles and responsibilities of each family member. Roles refer to the behavioral expectations of individuals at any given time. Members of the family are expected to play certain specific roles based on socially shared expectations. In most cases, roles are guided by the culture and society in which the family lives. Every family member is faced with a different set of roles and responsibilities as the family progresses in the family life cycle. In daily life, family members make efforts to conform to the roles that they are expected to play. Figure 10.2. Every member of the family has a specific role to play, as mothers are expected to play the role of the primary caregiver for the infant. Domains of adjustment. Domains of adjustment are the areas where a family needs to make adjustments for the well-being of its members. Adjustments may be big or small, frequent or rare. Each stage of a family life cycle brings along different domains of adjustment. Challenges and emerging issues. Each of the roles, responsibilities, and domains of adjustment involved in establishing a marital or any other familial relationship has challenges and issues that must be met successfully if the family is to develop and grow satisfactorily. Success in performing one's roles and responsibilities and working towards adjustments in different domains does not come suddenly, but must be achieved if the family intends to find happiness together. Figure 10.3. Extended family members play a role in caregiving. Transitioning to the next stage. While you attempt to understand the process of transition from one stage to another in a family life cycle in the following units, you should keep in mind that the transition from one stage to another is not like a watertight compartment. Overlapping of stages is bound to occur for most families. For example, in families with more than one child, there will be several years of stage overlapping. Thus, while a family may be seeing its firstborn into school, a younger sibling may arrive into a preschool family rather than a childbearing family in which the first child arrived. A family does not transition abruptly from one stage to another, but does so smoothly. 10.6. Acknowledging and respecting individual differences. For a successful understanding of family life cycle development, it is very important that one understands the uniqueness of every family member and respects it. All family members are individual persons with individual differences. In various familial relationships like husband and wife, brother and sister, children and parents, in-laws and other relatives, each one brings along different recipes of life with different ingredients. What do you think are the ingredients? Let us find out the individual differences that exist among individuals and families. 1. Values. A value is an assumption upon which an implementation can be extrapolated. A value system is a set of consistent values and measures. A principal value is a foundation upon which other values and measures of integrity are based. A value is always important to the person who holds it. It is desirable and satisfying. Values are subjective and vary across people and cultures. Personal values evolve from circumstances and interactions with the external world and can change over time. The sources of values are family, society, religion, culture, education, political party, mass media, historical environment, etc. Each individual possesses a unique conception of values. Values are related to the norms of a culture, but they are more general and abstract than norms. Norms are rules for behavior in specific situations, while values identify what should be judged as good or bad. For example, hoisting the national flag on Independence Day is a norm, but it reflects the value of patriotism. Do you think that any analysis for family therapy or counseling can be undertaken without considering the role of value systems of the individuals concerned? 2. Attitudes. Attitudes are composed of feelings, emotions, and convictions that come from heredity, environment, experience, and present purpose. Attitudes are hypothetical constructs that represent an individual's likes or dislikes for an item. They are thoughts or behavior patterns formed by past and present experience and form a conscious set of readiness of the mind to react to objects and situations in a given way. Values are governing factors and play a role in determining attitudes. Attitudes change more readily than values. Attitudes are positive, negative, or neutral toward a person, behavior, or event. At times, individuals experience ambivalence in attitudes. Attitudes are composed of various forms of judgment. After a failed marriage, an individual may feel that all marriages are failing. This reflects a negative attitude toward the institution of marriage. 3. Standards. Standards are a set of measures of values, stemming from our value patterns. Standards determine the amount and kind of interest we have in something, and the satisfaction we receive in doing things. Standards serve as a measure or criterion for the measurement of objects, ways of doing things, and ways of living. They are what individuals and families accept as adequate and consider worthy in working towards achieving them. For example, an individual may believe that possessing a postgraduate degree is a must, or that owning a car is very important for an adequate standard of living. 4. Goals. A goal is an objective condition, or something one strives to attain or achieve at any given point. Goals can be short-term, intermediate, or long-term. Values and goals are closely interlinked. Values produce goals and become the foundation for achieving them. A person having high regard for education may have a long-term goal to become an academician or a professor. 5. Beliefs. A belief is a statement, assertion, or theory of what you accept as true. It becomes your basis for deciding, choosing, and acting. Beliefs vary considerably from one person to another. It is possible that you might have other values and believe something else. A form of an unfounded belief is an assumption. Assumptions are unchallenged, unquestioned, unexamined, and very often untrue. Every individual approaches a new idea, information, rumor, proposal, or explanation with a pre-assumption. The pre-assumption can range from a very unlikely, dismissive, and skeptical stance to a very likely and accepting stance. For example, a mother-in-law is always a problem creator, or a daughter-in-law is too modern to adjust in a family. 6. Expectations. Expectations are mental constructs. It is looking forward to or anticipating something. Expectations may be realistic or unrealistic. Expectations are closely related to values, standards, goals, beliefs, attitudes, etc. Sometimes the clash of expectations causes problems in a marital relationship, especially if they are unvoiced. Consider this. Reshma has a postgraduate degree in life sciences and has high value for education. Due to difficulty in finding a suitable match, she had to marry a man with much less education than her. Influenced by the contemporary conception of the husband-wife relationship, she had no issues with her husband being less educated. She aspired to pursue her career after marriage and looked forward to a supportive husband, whereas the husband still thought of a wife as playing the same role as his mother did in relation to his father, a typical traditional homemaker who would greet him with a smile and a cup of tea when he came home. Do you think that the two could live in relative harmony with each other? 7. Habits. Habits are automatic routines of behavior that are repeated regularly without thinking. They are learned behaviors and occur automatically without the explicit intention of the person. An individual may not be paying attention to or be conscious or aware of the behavior. When the behavior is brought to the person's attention, she or he may be able to control it only if there is an intention to do so. 8. Skills. A skill is the learned capacity or talent to carry out tasks with minimum time, energy, or both. Skills can often be divided into domain general and domain specific skills. For example, in the domain of work, some general skills would include time management, teamwork, leadership, and self-motivation. On the other hand, domain-specific skills would be useful only for a certain job. 9. Gender identity. Gender identity refers to an individual's persistent, unambiguous definition of self as either female or male, how one feels about oneself as female or male. It is a person's own sense of identification as male or female, one's concept of self as feminine or masculine. Well, what is your opinion after reading an exhaustive list of ingredients? Do you think that if a husband and wife blend these all together, they will happily enjoy the outcome all their life? Think about it. Each spouse may begin the marital relationship with widely discrepant frames of reference regarding the above factors you just read. The impact would be felt on every aspect of their day-to-day interactions, such as the decision-making process, patterns of communication, role performance, conflict resolution, etc. Dissatisfaction in the relationship does not begin when there is a difference in personal factors, but begins if the personal factors are unvoiced, implicit, and not negotiated. With arranged marriages being a predominant pattern for most couples in India, there may be very few opportunities for the partners to identify similarities and differences in their personal factors prior to marriage. This does not imply that couples who select partners by self-choice do not face this problem. These factors may become a major source of conflict in the marital relationship subsequently. Initially, it may appear that there are minor disagreements and arguments, but the individual's position hardens with the passing of time, increasing conflicts between the couple. Thus, while giving therapy or when counseling such couples, you must undertake a careful analysis that needs to go beyond the superficial conflict areas and try to identify the discrepancies, especially the values. You must help the couple and individuals in families understand the differences and make their values explicit. Once the differences are acknowledged, it will help the couple either negotiate ways of narrowing down their differences or simply agree to remain different. Differences need to be respected mutually. Awareness of the differences itself creates conditions for change to occur. 10.7. Let us sum up. In this unit, you studied about the meaning of the family life cycle, which is a fundamental concept in understanding families and change. It is very important to understand the family life cycle because it opens the way for the study of the particular problems and potentials, rewards and hazards, vulnerabilities and strengths of each phase of family experience from beginning to end. Each family grows through the years in its own unique way. Every family develops through a family life cycle in which it becomes established with the marriage of the husband and wife. It enters into childbearing and child-rearing with the coming of children and becomes an arena of interacting family members as children grow up, and in time launches the children into lives of their own. The middle-aged and aging couple lives through their remaining years in homes where they may live alone, with married children, their grandchildren, and other relatives, wherein they continue to remain a part of the family cycle. You got an orientation regarding the 4 salient features, or rather common aspects, which each stage of the family life cycle will pass through. The last section of this unit dealt with acknowledging and respecting the individual differences of members in a family. You have to keep this fact in mind throughout your learning process in the context of counseling and family therapy. 10.8 Glossary. Cyclical, recurring, repeated, dynamic, energetic, vibrant, explicit, open, clear, milestones, landmark, target, predominant, main, chief, vulnerabilities, weakness, helplessness.